Hi, it's Jan Beta, and as you can see, I'm back here with the Commodore Max. I made a comprehensive or more comprehensive video about a couple of videos ago. I'm gonna link that in here. Pretty interesting machine. It has one major problem if you want to use it. It only has an RF out, which is labeled TV RF out, which means you have to connect it to a television that supports analog RF. And the thing with this is that it's analog RF in the Japanese NTSC format, which is pretty rarely supported by televisions this side of the world. So what you can do with this has basically the same vic-ii chip in it that the Commodore 64 also has, an earlier revision of that, which also has luma and chroma out and the RF modulator. Just like in the Commodore 64, the RF modulator puts the two signals, one being the color signal and one being the brightness signal, together to a composite signal that is used for creating the television output. What you can do is to run a wire from the RF modulator that is behind here to the audio jack. Usually the audio jack this is a stereo audio jack that only uses one channel because this has only mono audio out. You can use the other channel for the video out, which will give you a composite video out on one of the channels of the audio out, which is a pretty nice and convenient mod because you don't have to change the machine from the outside. The RF modulator will still work, the audio will still work just as normal, but you additionally have the video signal on this jack, which will hopefully work. So I'm going to open this up now, and I'm going to be very, very careful because if anything that I had on the bench here is rare, then it's this thing here. There's only about 50,000 is the number that's circulating on the net made of these, so I am going to be extra careful with this. So here we go. There's a couple of screws, like here, 5, and then there's 3 in the back that I don't know if I have to remove them, but let's see. Let's carefully remove the screws. And this hasn't been opened too much, I think. I'm shaking a bit. It's just a computer after all. I think I have to remove these screws as well. And these are the screws in the back here are a bit shorter than the other screws. Okay, that's interesting. So remove those. Okay, the whole back plate comes off. And should be able, I didn't miss anything, to open this up. And there is a ribbon cable connecting the keyboard. Okay, so here's the ribbon cable connecting the keyboard to the case, which I have to... there we go. Okay. Ribbon cable seems to be fine. Looks good. Pretty well made compared to other Commodore machines. So this is the 325565 revision B, which makes the composite mod a tiny bit more complicated because the audio jack also has, it doesn't only have one channel from the SID, but it also has the audio input from the SID sitting on here. So we have to cut some traces. The audio in from the SID is not used for any known thing on the Max, so it doesn't hurt to remove that at all because there just isn't any software using it. So it's not a vital thing for this to work. So I'm going to just cut the trace, and I think I have to remove a capacitor. Don't know yet. I have to look it up again. By the way, I'm going to link the site I got this mod from below in the description, so you can check that out yourself in written form. Yeah, I'm just going to remove the board from the casing here and go for it, I guess. So these are the same screws used for the backplate. Okay, this looks pretty clean. So for this mod, I am going to use, if you have a revision A, you just have to connect this pin, which is the audio jack, is here. This pin here is the unused channel of the audio jack. So you can just connect the composite out from the RF modulator, that I'm going to show you in a second, to here. On this revision B motherboard, there is a connection coming from here, going to the input of the SID chip. So what I think I'm going to do is just cut this trace, and if you ever want it back, you can just mod this by using some botch wire. The other method that I'm not going to use because it's going to mess with the appearance of this board is to remove C74, which is this capacitor here that is also in the line of the input of the SID chip. So if you remove that, you also have cut the trace, so to say. So I'm going to go for cutting the trace, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to do so. So it's going to be mostly invisible, so just do that. Okay, here I go, cutting a trace on a like 500 euro mainboard. I have to clean it up a bit before, so I can see the trace. Because there's solder residue all over the place. So right, here's my X-Acto knife. I'm going to just cut the freaking trace. Pretty well made board. Not so trivial to cut through this. Okay, so here's what it looks like now. There's our cut. I think it's barely visible, but it's going to be enough to have this pin not connected to the SID. I'm going to measure that as well to be sure. Wow, I'm a bit nervous working on this thing because it's so rare. So let's see. This shouldn't go anywhere now. I think there's a little... Yeah, this would go here normally. No, it doesn't. So we have this disconnected from... Yeah. So this should be ground. Yeah, which it is. Clearly is. This is ground, and this should go to the SID, which is this chip here, and now it doesn't anymore. No connection to the SID whatsoever. So what we're going to do now is to run a wire from the RF modulator composite out, which is this pin here, the leftmost pin from the... There's two groups of four contacts from the RF modulator, and the right group of four, the leftmost pin, is the composite out. So we're going to run a wire from there to the pin we just disconnected from the rest. So it's going to be our new composite output pin. Okay, so I tinned the wire so it's going to stick to the solder joints easier. And yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. So the rightmost pin here, I'm going to add some solder to that. It's not even soldered in. That's strange, but I guess the connections were not needed for anything, so they just didn't solder them. So there we go. There's no traces going from the connections, so they just spared some solder there. Okay. Okay, there we go. That's our composite mod. And I'm just clipping off the excess stuff here, so won't short out anything. So there we go. This should give me composite out on the audio jack. As easy as that. And the mod is it is reversible, so you can just remove the wire here, and you could also bridge the trace again if you really wanted. I guess that's not necessary to bridge the trace because it's not used ever for anything. And if someone, against all odds, makes software that uses the SID input on the Commodore Max, you could bridge the trace again. It wouldn't be much of an effort. So I guess I'm going to fix this with a little Kapton tape like here or so. So it's not going to wiggle around and maybe short out or something like that. I'm a bit careful with these botch wires ever since I had this Commodore 128 repair. I'm gonna link that in, where a pin from a chip penetrated through one of the botch wires that were in the Commodore 128 from factory, and it shorted out a data line going through the whole system, which prevented the system from starting. So it took a while to find this fault, and I just don't want this to happen with the botch wire I inserted. So I'm just going to put some tape there to fix it. So, okay, this should be enough to prevent it from rattling around too much. So I'm going to put this back into the case and should be able to test this now. Excited. Oh, and while I'm at it, I'm gonna add some new heatsink plaster for this little tab that provides the cooling for the VIC chip, because I think this is the rarest chip in here, and they're nearly impossible to get because it's not compatible with the Commodore 64 VIC-2. Although it is already theoretically the same chip, the same functionality, it is made to work with the static RAM that this uses instead of the dynamic RAM that the Commodore 64 uses. So I am going to clean this up and add some new plaster there. So the nice thing about how I did this mod is that you can't really see it from this side of the board. So you would have to take the board out of the case and unscrew the screws and stuff like that. So that's probably not happening anytime soon. And I'm purposefully not doing anything else to this board, like adding heatsinks to the other chips or anything like that, because this is so historically important that I don't want to mess up the original state of this any more than absolutely necessary to be able to use this. You could, of course, do future-proofing stuff. You could change the capacitors, which are probably, these are 1982 capacitors, so I don't know which state they're in. I don't even know if this works yet, but there are chips that get hot, like the SID chip, or the 6526 also might get pretty warm. The PLA chip that's in here might get pretty warm. The RAM that's in here might get pretty warm. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna put some new paste on here. So, okay, put some on there. And I'm just going to close this again so the chip can get some cooling. So there we go. So that VIC chip, the rarest chip in the whole board, will stay cool. Or cooler than it usually would. These don't work very well, so dedicated heatsinks would be better, but it will do for now. Okay, putting this back together. So I think that's all the screws back in to keep the board in place. Back in. So I'm not going to put in the screws just yet, because I want to know if this works at all before doing anything else. So I am using a standard, this is meant for audio and I use it for audio all the time. Standard small phono plug to two RCA plugs cable, which is left and right, and I have connected it to my little converter that is connected to my monitor. This converter box is just for converting the analog composite signal to HDMI, which this monitor has exclusively. I think it has a VGA in, but I'm using HDMI through the little converter box. The Commodore Max uses the same power supply that the Commodore 64 also uses, and the later versions of the VIC-20. So I'm just going to use my homemade power supply and connect it on the back side, which is pretty convenient, I think. Don't really know why they changed that for the Commodore 64, because it's much easier to connect this on the back. So now we're hot here. I'm inserting this into the audio jack, which is now our video and audio jack, hopefully, if this mod worked. So there's power, we are connected to the monitor, and yeah, that's about it. But the thing with the Commodore Max is, you saw the main board here, and it doesn't have its own ROM. So if you connect it like this, it won't output any picture. So we have a signal. So this little light turned from red to blue, and it says video. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, can you see it? You can see the typical side stripe from the VIC-2 chip. So this thing works, but it doesn't output anything because it doesn't start anything because it doesn't have a ROM. So we have to insert a ROM, and that's what the cartridge port is for. So as luck would have it, Manuel also sent me Omega Rays, an original cartridge in original packaging, which is also in itself really, really rare. So we can try this, which comes in its original packaging. And it's, oh, this is beautiful. So I'm going to take good care of this. It also comes in its original bag. Wow. This is an unused cartridge. This is an unused, oh my, wow. So you can see on the bottom there that it's never been used. So I'm gonna use it for the first time. Okay, I have the cartridge in, and I have connected the left channel from the audio jack to the audio, and I've connected the right channel, which should be our video, to the video in. So let's see what it does. Maybe it worked. Yep. It totally works. I can switch the screen colors here. Can switch the chip color which is pretty neat. Yeah, there's quite some noise, but I think that's normal for such an old machine, and the picture quality is not very good. So here's what the picture quality looks like. It's okay, I guess. It's like the picture quality from the VIC-20 or something like that. It's composite out, and it's going through this converter box that's not ideal, but it's okay. I can't really steer the ship. Let's try connecting a joystick, I guess. So I don't really know which port to use. I'm just going for the right port here. So this is pretty nice because this is made as a gaming machine, I guess. So let's see. Using the Tag 2, obviously. Okay. No, it doesn't work. Let's try the other joystick port. Yeah, that works. Okay. So I'm totally playing. My goodness, this is amazing. So, this totally worked. And I'm now playing Omega Race on a 1982 Commodore Max, which I never thought I'd ever do in my life, because this is such a rare machine. So thanks very much for lending this to me again. Wow, I just finished the level, I think. Yep. So, if you like this, consider subscribing to this channel. There's a lot more like this on here. And if you give this a thumbs up, I'm going to be rated higher in the algorithms. Watch the other videos on this channel. Stay tuned for more of this stuff. Yeah, so much for now. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again on this channel sometime. I'm Jan Peter, and this is really exciting. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Oh, and I really, really suck at this game. I always did.